First of all, let me just make a starting point, which is on page Kuf Nun Ches. And we'll start about 4 lines from the bottom on page Kuf Nun Ches. For a summer base. And everyone realizes that we are speaking of things the way they are in a totally higher world. Not just a higher element in the world, but in a different kind of world. We're talking about a world that is on the godly level, on the divine level. What is significant by saying it's a world on the divine level? World, by definition, is a created entity. Thus, it represents only that which was given to it. Therefore, there's a sense, this is what was given. There is a moment where it doesn't have it, and then it's given. There is not a reality of its own. This is world in general. When we talk about divine is a real in and of itself. Does not have a safe source that creates it. It's a revelation, it reveals, it's revealing that which is real in and itself. This which is higher than world, this divine element, is also provided for in the world. In other words, the world can have cognizance and awareness of it. But that awareness is what's called in a makif manner. The world can be aware that it is encompassed in this greater truth, but not to say that the world can actually appreciate and understand what it is. This source, that which is representing the truth as it is unto itself, not the created truth, the source of sources. This is known in the world in a makif manner. What does makif mean? Makif means that the world has has something that substantiates its being. But it itself remains just precarious as it is. Except that because the Makif, the Eibishter wants it to be, therefore it has a validity, it has a reason, it has a right of being. Excuse me, I have to turn off this fan. Just 1 second, please. Before I go further, just want to make this very important point, which essentially was pointed out, but I want to emphasize. The Oil Motif is not really a created oil. It does not belong to the world. Oh boy.
It's too cold?
No, it's I need rest. An important insight that is significant from our vantage point. The world is being made to be a world. That which provides and enables to make a world is not emptiness. Since it's an empty space, you can put the world in. That which provides for the world is a real provider for world. And this is what we refer to as the Oil Motif. This Oil Motif, although it is at a much higher level than world, but this is what substantiates and gives the world a sense of real presence. It justifies the presence of world. Since that it is the Oil Motif that justifies the presence of world, therefore it reflects itself in the world, that the world has a cognizance, the sense that its real being is not of itself. Its real presence is a market presence, at the level of market. In other words, no matter how substantive the world can become, we always recognize that it is merely a created presence. It is not something that is real in itself. This cognizance is both extremely important in terms of the world recognizing its own truth. About world. World is a created entity. We see that world is a created entity. Is recognized and felt in the world even after it becomes a mitzvah, even after it's created. In the creation of the world, I'm just thinking where I should start.
We finished yesterday by Hakus, I think so, by Hakus Oil Motif Boy Panimi, or even further. No, we learned.
Yeah, okay, so
We
where
learned
is that?
further. We learned further than that.
Yeah, but that's a good place to start because I, for one, I don't know about you, Shalom, I, for one, do not understand that expression or concept. But Rabbi Paltiel needs to locate the exact place in the text.
Okay, that's all way up. That's actually the middle of the bottom section of page Kuf Nun Ches. Okay. So in that case, we will start 4 lines at the end of the 4th line on the bottom section of page Kuf Nun Ches, or Oy Samach Beis. Omnam Yodua. This word omnom, I'm not going to repeat everything. It's an allusion to that which was said before. And therefore here he begins a new insight in the union of Cain. The principle that we have a new insight. What does it mean we have a new insight? We were talking about the way things are. The principle of our new insight is that talking about world is not a one-step creation. Let me explain what that means. This is a little bit of a different, new way of presenting it, which is hopefully going to be very helpful. One-step creation means that you make something, and that something is independent of everything else. It stands completely on its own. It may appear that things in the world, everything that you make stands on its own, like you make a table, the table stands on its own. Otherwise, it's not a real entity in your presence. So you may think that in the world, everything is, so to speak, self-contained. It is completely self-justifying. It makes itself stand on its own. And this is the point that we're trying to explain. And the Rebbe explains it all the time. This is not true. This is a misunderstanding. World does not represent worldliness. The real substantiation of world is what's called Oil Motif, which is much higher than world. Not only is it higher than world, but the important thing about the Oil Motif is that it is not even in the category of being a world. It's not being a created entity. It's in a different realm of existence than world. This different realm of existence or in terms of the Maimon, it's called a makif. This makif correlates world to that which is higher than world. What is by definition higher than world? The divine truth, which is true because of its own presence, not because it came into being. This is an extremely difficult concept to be realized in world, because in the world experience, everything that we encounter, we will start looking, where is it coming from? What's holding it up? Because in the world, all of these things are required. And this is something which needs to be, which requires, so to speak, a fundamental adjustment in our view and our understanding. That the real source of everything, not only the source, the real substantiation, the real power that maintains things, does not have a beginning. That power is not a world make. It is what's called a divine truth. The entire phenomenon of existence is really revealing a divine truth. To us, this is a great revelation. It's a new creation, because we cannot see it unless it's being shown to us. But in truth, this is a presence that cannot, an expression exists, cannot not be. The minute we say the word be, we immediately start constructing what does it being mean? Where does it come from? What does it mean that it's there? So that is true regarding all things that come into being. But a truth that cannot not be does not possess this beginning. And you cannot trace it back to its beginning. How then do we know it, and how then do we relate to it? Since we cannot really grasp it. The answer is, we allow ourselves to be part of it. This is a profound recognition on our part that as substantial as we are, we're really not entities unto ourselves. We are constantly being maintained and made by this maki, by this fundamental truth. This is why we cannot even contemplate or project or imagine of the truth not being there. We cannot project there not being a world. As an example. Because in fact, the presence of the world does not begin by its being made. It begins by the divine desire that it should be. This is what makes it, that gives it substance, that justifies its being. Therefore, our observation of the world is a continuous divine miracle. It's showing us a source that is high, that is not worldly at all. This is the overall truth. Now, Hashem creates a world. World is by definition something that has a beginning. But since the world has a beginning, but it's a source, something which has no beginning, it presents and reveals two very different realities. The worldly reality and the divine reality. That is known in the world only not directly, we cannot identify it, in a makif manner. This is its distant source. This is what enables it to be, but not directly. It is a distant source. It's called makif. This creation in general it actually represents two very different realities. The creator and the created. Even though the created, the world, is merely a world, a creation, the creator had imbued into the world aspects that allude and that are representative of that of the creator himself. Even though in fact it is all created, but in the creation, the creator had given some spirit, some spark that gives it a sense of reality of being, of the creator reality. It remains something which is above it. It cannot fully be comprehended from its vantage point. But nonetheless, it has that support, that basis. So I'm not going to go into Mishalim because we already have Mishalim, a full Mishalim for these things. This principle in general, that something comes into being and its source is way above that which it stands for. And yet the source is recognized from its vantage point. This is something which is the reality of the world. For this, I'm going to give the moshel, so we have clarity. We have our seichel, and we're constantly bringing things out on seichel. Seichel itself recognizes that the basis and the truth that it's speaking about is not seichel. Is known not through seichel. It's just a gift from a given source. And we experience it, we know it, we experience it in our rotzen and noineg, and then we take it into our seichel, but it never becomes our seichel. It's above seichel. Now, coming back to world. We said we're going to start 4 lines from the top of this same, at the end of the line. Omnam Yodua, right, Baruch? Om Yodua, the Sheish HaKeli. In world, there are 2 distinct aspects. The reason there are 2 distinct aspects in world is that, in fact, world consists of 2 different sources, the creator and the created. World never takes over the place of the creator. This is why in world there are 2 different aspects. What are the 2 aspects in world? Oir and Keli. What are these 2 things? Oir represents the creator. It's called oir because it reveals, it is alluding to the intent, the spirit behind its being. The spirit behind its being is not a created entity. It's part of the creator. But that aspect of the creator is also revealed and given to the creation. Essentially, the creation has a spirit that the creator really wants it to be. This is called oir. But this is the creator part in the creation. The creation is a real creation. It has its own presence. Its presence at the creation level is called Kelim. Kelim means the means by which the creation accepts that which is given to it. What is the principle of Kelim? How, in fact, does the creation manage to accept the oil? Kelim are really a very special phenomenon. For this, I'm going to use the moshel. You'll be coming in a new phase. Take a very simple keli, as we know, a keli, a plate. A plate is a keli. It is important that we focus in and understand this terminology. Why do you call a plate a keli? A plate is a plate. The reason a plate is called a keli, what keli means, a receptacle, is that the entire phenomenon of the existence of the plate is not to be a plate. It is to be a receptacle. It is to receive that which is given to it, which is put into it. It is not an entity unto itself. This is the principle that the world consists in, because the Metzius of world is to be a receptacle for that which is for the Creator's presence. It is not to be world. World is not a non-entity. World does not exist by itself, on its own. It has to have a source and a support of the Creator. This is the reason that it's called a keli. It's a receptacle for the contribution of the Creator. The contribution of the Creator remains Creator. It never becomes creation. In the creation, the Creator is identified as Oyer. The intent, the significance, the meaning of this being. So that even though it comes into Keli, the Keli aspect is at the creation level. The real, the contribution, the real source and the force behind it is the Oyer, is the Creator. If God forbid, if the creation loses sight of the Creator, the Keli loses sight of the Oyer, it loses its life force. it loses a justification for its being. It vanishes into nothingness. This is basically a presentation of what the creation is. The creation is Kalim, which is the creation, and the oil of the Creator. And the creation must have the oil of the Creator, otherwise it ceases to be. And it has to be always at the ready to receive the message and the oil of the Creator, the Creator's presence. Line om portal om Yadua. What the Rebbe is going to explain is an interesting, very important phenomenon. So far, we are saying that there is a creator and there is a created. Is this dichotomy that there is two parts in the creation, the creator and the created? This is conceptually absolutely the truth. And in fact, the creation has to be renewed and created all the time from the Creator. However, the creation, which was made by the Creator, but maybe is of such substance, self-identifiable reality, that it seems to be of its own, to be true in and itself. Even though, in fact, it is a creation and really needs to be recreated all the time from the Creator, but the Creator had put an aspect, Creator aspect in the creation. This is a very interesting thing. The Creator aspect is that which, the reason why it's there. The creation is the result of that creation. The Creator has created the world in such a way that the reason for its being is contained within its own itself. It has a certain self-identifiable reality. This is called oil in a keli. Oil is the Creator presence part. Keli is the creation. This oil unites with the keli, and the keli receives the oil, absorbs the oil, and therefore the creation has both Creator and creation. And thus, it has a sense of a real presence. It is not a precarious presence, it's a real presence. In part of its presence is the Creator. despite the fact that what gives it real substance, the oil, is really something which is presented, given to it by the Creator. This is the Creator's presence. It's not part of the creation. That Creator part unites with the creation. So that in the creation itself, there's a sense of a Creator's reality. How can it be if this is a creation? How can the creators, the creator and creation are two different worlds, two different realities? The answer is that it has the aspect of beetle. Yes, indeed, it's a Metzias. But this Metzias is fundamentally given over and dedicated to the oil that creates it. So that, yes, indeed, it's being interpreted and it's being accepted. Yet still, the creation itself identifies itself as being a creation. It means there is the Creator's effect on the creation. This is, if we can say in a nutshell, this is the principle of oil and cake. Oil is the presence of the Creator. Keli is how it is being accepted by the creation. And the word Keli, very important, it is being accepted, not it is received. It's absorbed in the world. It is not that since that I'm the or that my mitzvah is insignificant. No, it is very significant. It is so significant that I can actually hold on and contain and understand and have a connection to the Creator.
Sorry guys, time check. I was away from the shear for a second. It's 5272.
All right.
Accomplished is to bring us to the point of the 4 lines so that we can hopefully get into this knowing what this is about. The connection, the relationship between the Oil Motif and Pnimi, the oil and the Keli. All right. Sorry it took up all this time, but I felt that we're talking oil and Keli, and we don't really realize what we're talking about. All right, question time.
This is a 4th line, right? 4th and 5th line, Yodua.
It's a 4th line.
Akiva will put a question on the chat.
Yeah, do you want to read it, Shmuley?
I could read his question, unless he wants to.
No, his microphone's not working.
Not working. Oh, okay. Akiva asked, at the beginning of the shir, did we account for the origin of the makif? That's the question.
I'm so cold.
Oh boy, the origin of the makif, we do account. The makif is the recognition that there is a creator, the makif, the origin of makif.
I think that there is a creator good. Maybe this is in line with what Akiva was saying, but it was said in the shir how hard it is for us to think about no beginning. So we just went from makif to creator, but the inyan of no beginning is pretty mysterious to us, correct?
Yes. And this is why we say creator. Creator means this is something which is prior to our existence. And the only way that we can relate to it is by submitting. It's not our world. Creator is not our world. The creator, it is his choice that he burst into.
Rabbi's phone keeps breaking up.
My
Yeah,
phone?
it was pretty
Yeah.
choppy. It was pretty choppy there, but we heard, what did we hear? That this can be, to whatever extent, perceived through submission.
It is only it is only recognized, it is only present through submission. It is not something that we can grasp with any of our faculties. Not even
Okay,
Chochmah.
not even Chochmah. So it's like saying there's not much to say about the concept of no beginning. It's outside of conception. Okay.
Right. Chochmah, just to remind you, Chochmah in Chassidus is called bittul. This is how Chochmah allows us to connect, to relate to the Creator. Okay.
This was an answer
Robert,
to the question. Sorry. Just wanted to follow through it if this was an answer to Akiva's question, or was it like kind of in a different direction?
Not like he would say if that's an answer to his question.
No, I'm asking for myself. I'm asking for me.
What do you think?
Because the sound was being cut off a little bit, so I was trying
Oh, the sound like
to put it together. That's all.
all right. Yeah,
Uh,
this is the answer to your question.
The origin of the makif.
That's right.
Okay.
Rabbi, Paltiel,
Yes.
I have something to ask. In the beginning of last week, you said that we're going to learn how something cannot, like the Igul Agadol, the Tehirei Law, has no shayachus to the world, but yet has an effect on it.
Right.
And you said you're going to explain how come something can have no shayachus but yet effect. So this is the hakah that, that we spoke about?
No, I give it say if that's an answer to his question.
I'm asking for myself. I'm asking for me.
Okay.
Because the origin of the makif.
That's right.
The origin of the makif. Haka, the hitting of. Got it.
Which, by the way, was mentioning twice yesterday in yesterday's Tanya.
What has no chayes?
Not no chayus, such as the haka, the hitting, was mentioned in yesterday's Tanya twice.
Okay, let me say this. We can get into this. I can really definitely try it and explain and so forth. Here's what I request from all students, from all Talmidim, everybody's participating in the shir, anybody who wants to ask a question. I'd like to define a question. A question is not that which can be asked from the words of the mimer. Because the mimer says these words, I can ask this question. A question is based on my own understanding. This is what I want to understand. Based on what I understand, I have this question. It is very important. It's impossible to talk to someone, I don't know what you do understand, what you don't know. There's a question because it says in the Bible these words, I should explain to you. I don't want to go there. That's not the point. The point is that we are learning with our own seichel. Not the words of the mind, but with our seichel and absorbs. So if you want to ask a question, and this question is something which is truly part of that surfaces as a result of what you know, then we can discuss it. But if it's a question based on the words of the mind, I really don't think I want to go there. All right.
Can it be both simultaneously?
Come on.
I'm trying to
Make sense of your question. Make sense of your question. I'll try to answer it.
It's very simple. What do you mean? I don't know.
Why are you asking a question? Because it's of your own understanding, or nothing to be your understanding.
If it's
That's
based on
important.
words of the mimer, if it's based on how you understood the words of the mimer, you understood it a certain way, and then
You're talking out of the blue. Do you understand the words of the mimer? Did they make sense to you? And as a result of that, you have a question. That is a question.
Okay, that definitely adds clarity.
Okay, good. Baruch Hashem.
This element of ongoing creation.
Oh.
I think it was even said that the creation has a sense of it. That it seems also the opposite, whereby creatures and creation either have a very low level even of themselves, knowledge and awareness of themselves, never mind of their creator. So it does seem like being in the world, a lot of this stuff is perhaps purposefully obscured from the creations, creatures, and people and the Yidden Lahavdil.
Right. Aspects that we learn in terms of the creation, recognizing the creator. First, the creation recognizes that it has to be created. It has to have a source. It didn't make itself. It doesn't have the means to make itself. And therefore there has that's a very fundamental aspect where the creation recognizes its own shortcoming, its own limit. Then there is a higher and more significant, perhaps, aspect in this cognizance. And that is that even as a creation, there is the recognition that really its existence is greater than meets the eye. That was greater than is limited, identifiable by its physical presence. There is some kind of a profound truth with its existence. This is recognized from within the creation itself. This is called the Oil Motif.
Okay. So it was a little choppy, so I'm not sure if I heard what was said properly, but again, even that first level of the creation realizing its shortcomings, I mean, that's okay. So that's clearly a human stance, and even there, amongst human beings, it seems like quite a high level, meaning a lot of people just get so-called get on with life or don't seem to. And then the second level, which seemed to be, what was it, that us as creations have godliness sort of within us, B'Tselem Elokim, and we acknowledging, or we have a degree of acknowledgement of our godly imprint. That I mean, that sounds also quite otherworldly, superworldly.
Let me react to the first point. First of all, I'm going to explain to you this. The fact that we, in our world, that creatures, the human being, can ignore that which his seichel tells him. Says just go on with life. Forget about everything else. That does not speak about the truth. It speaks about the intellectual shortcoming of the human being.
Okay, so
One second, but
okay.
if he should focus in, he would readily see something much greater than his own mitzvahs.
Okay, so
not interested in something else already. Okay, go ahead.
So right, so good. So whether it's common or not is not the point. Rather, the point is that this is right in front of us if we would just sort of pay attention. It's right there if you just don't get distracted.
Yeah, just one second. Just one more point to that. It's being in front of us is one thing, but that we were blessed with the intelligence to be able to identify this and be able to relate to it. That is another, that is a special blessing from the Mavish.
Right.
Except because we are preoccupied with the worldly experience, we don't even ascribe any value to this intelligence.
Right. Yeah, and there seem to be two reasons for that. One is the person gets caught up with the pleasure or the trouble of being in the world. But the second seems to also be because it's hard to think about something that has no beginning. You're actually the human B'Tselem Elokim. You're actually saying, oh, I'm a little bit of the infinite. That's quite a hard thing to really dwell on.
Okay, so what's the answer to that? What is an intelligent man? How does an intelligent man react to that?
Yeah, I guess what he mostly can do, or perhaps the only thing he can do, is sort of live up to or seek out that element of life.
There you have it. There you have it. And say, yes, indeed, my life is more significant than it meets the eye.
Right, and like we said earlier, this is super conscious, or this is even beyond Chokhmah, it was said, which is so it's always in the distance. It's a makif, I guess, like we're saying, but yet it is worthy of attention.
Okay, so the next step to that is that this makif is with us, and we are living with it all the time. Despite the fact that we don't really understand it.
Okay, and you don't have to be a big chacham or a big tzaddik to kind of just live on that wavelength.
That's correct. To just give you a very, very simple example, very, very simple example. Every person understands that you must live a decent life. You must not steal or do other very simple, mundane crimes. And this principle that you must not do mundane crime, he would say, on one hand, you say, oh, because it will disturb the peace in the world. But you also understand that it is wrong from a existential level, from a principle level.
Yeah.
We always say that this,
Mm-hmm.
a person who does not steal only because he's afraid to be caught is lacking certain human intelligence.
Right. The statement "crime does not pay" isn't the half of it. The real
Right.
deal, the real picture is much bigger.
This is not that's right. This is not human intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
To summarize, to bring it to the fulcrum, so to speak, it means that even on the most fundamental level, a human being lives in the reality that he recognizes has a divine quality to it.
Again, what on the very basic human level that he lives, he senses a divine quality. Is that what you said?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Mm. And that's to come around to where we started from. That's to some degree a sense of the ongoing creation, because he's now stepping away. He's going beyond cause and effect, or he's going outside of material world to clearly we're in some kind of ongoing production, right?
Yes, but really, in the Seichel Odom, it is even closer, even more real than even that. It's not going anyplace. In the Seichel, he realizes that this is what existence is.
Yeah, but okay,
This
but good. This is existent, but why is this ongoing creation? Oh, because what? This is what creation is, and hence it's united with its maker, right?
That's right.
There's no
Exactly.
There's no creation just adrift. There's no existence by itself. There's only the creation unified with its creator, moment to moment.
That's right.
And any straightforward, simple person has a degree of sense, has some sense of this. Otherwise he wouldn't sense.
That's right.
That's
And to
right.
put it bluntly, I've said many times, a person who does not commit a crime because he's concerned about being caught is lacking human intelligence, plain human intelligence.
Right, he's already lost. Right, he's already lost that plain, basic human insight, which is like we're saying, a godly insight about how this environment is an ongoing creation. Right, it's not just here; it's an ongoing creation that he's a participant in.
Ongoing. They call it creation from a worldly perspective. It's ongoing. It's more than that. It is an ongoing divine will that it should be there.
Yeah,
Divine
it's
intent.
it's continually being created. It's
That's right.
okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Whenever we talk in these terms, it always seems so straightforward that I'm always amazed that something like Simsum Kipshutoi or the world is actually, a worldly world and Hashem is sort of off doing something else. Like, I don't know how that really gained credence amongst from a Yidden. I mean, amongst Chachamim, right? I mean, it would seem like that would be apikoursis. You have to say Hashem is continuously and intimately involved in maintaining every existence, but really that's a chiddush of Chassidus.
No, it's not a chiddush of Chassidus. It's a clarification. The Chassidus is clarifying that which you know on your own.
Okay, but that Torah elsewhere would say anything different seems bizarre.
I'm sorry?
That Torah seems to say elsewhere, Tzimtzum Kpshutoi, Hashem sort of made the world and then stepped away.
No, Tzimtzum Kipshuta is not a Torah concept.
It's not. Oh, I thought there were a whole bunch of Chachamim who held that way.
No, that was an error. The Rebbe said that this is there's a mistake.
Fine, but even the fact that, learned guys would make such an error seems quite bizarre.
Okay, true. And the Alter Rebbe says the reason they made this error is because they learned the words in Eitz Chaim, the words, without thinking beyond the words. This is what we're speaking about all the time. The words, he said Tzimtzum, is Tzimtzum. So the Alter Rebbe says, totally out of a possibility of speaking Tzimtzum as such. The Rebbe cannot take himself away from the world.
Yeah, it just seems so drastic and such a terrible mistake that it's quite bizarre that it happened.
This is why the Alter Rebbe, looks at the words, the Alter Rebbe refers to it as this: Chachomim be'eineihem.
Oh, that's pretty harsh language, right?
They're not really Chachom, that's right. They have not delved to any, they're not examined their own thinking.
Just a sack of books. They haven't lived into it. Okay.
This is what we should take from it, that they are not really Chachomim, or in this aspect, they are not really Chachomim.
That I don't know. Chachomim beineihem, that because they understand something else, therefore they can say, I can understand what it says in Kisei Arizal. Okay, that's an erroneous projection.
Okay, so we say on other things, we can say at least that in other things they understood.
Yes, sure. The one thing that the Alter Rebbe is revealing in these words, is this: that there is Nigel Torah and there's Pnimis Torah. The method of learning Nigel Torah and Pnimis Torah are two very different methods. Nigel Torah, I'm not going to define it conclusively, just saying Nigel Torah is learned at the nigla level. Pnimis Torah has to be learned on the pnimius level. What makes nigla Torah a reality when you understand? It fits into a worldly context. Pnimis Torah does not fit into a worldly context. It is learned at the divine level. It's a completely different basis and a completely different context.
It's a different context, but it impacts world and it relates to world. Like we use the simple citizen who will not steal for the right reason.
It impacts world only if world recognizes that its presence here is not based on worldliness.
Mm. Mm. Right. Which again, like we're saying, you don't have to be a genius or a saint to have that true perception.
That's right.
You don't even have to be a yid.
Lahabdu. This inyan that doesn't have to be a yid, that has to be understood with some kind of a caveat or some kind of a precondition. To know that there is a God, Lahabdu, the Goy can also know. But to live up to that reality, that you have to be a yid.
We have been saying that there are plenty goyim who will not steal for the right reason. They are seemingly living up to at least the promise of that reality.
Right. And for that, we are explained that in fact, even when it is in that vein, and it is very commendable, but ultimately there is definitely a personal stance that takes place in it, and that is he is doing the right thing for the right reasons. But he has in mind in the fact that as a result of this, I'm going to be doing the right thing. I am going to be doing the right thing. In other words, it is not his dedication to the divine that makes him do it. It is the self-recognition of his own value. Therefore, it turns back to his worldly experience. A yid, the unique things about a yid is that he does a mitzvah exclusively because the Rebbe so commanded. Because the Rebbe wants it. L'shem Shamayim, it's not L'shem Shamayim, for the sake of satisfying the Rebbe's will, not to satisfy anything that I need. That is really unique for a yid, and it doesn't exist on the worldly level. That's what the Alter Rebbe says, brings on in Tanya from Zohar. that even good things that Ummez Olam do, Einon Elo Lihis Yaher. I'm quoting directly from the Tanya brings down. This is from the Eitz Chaim. Einon Elo Lihis Yaher. It is not for the divine purpose, but it is in order to aggrandize himself. A Yid has the blessing of doing things exclusively because that's what the Rebbe wants.
But it was said many times that the American Goyim fight wars and did many things not for themselves.
Right. The American phenomenon. It's in the world, on the world scale, this is like a phenomenon. There's no precedent for that before the American experiment.
America is an unprecedented nation and the almost chosen nation.
That's right. America is built in a different principle than the rest of the world.
That's
Even
the
starting
Judean,
for all, huh?
that's the Judean Christian.
Well, I don't want to put them together, but yes, there was an influence there that there is a truth in the world, a divine truth in the world.
Okay, but that proves that, I mean, not, but they are Goyim. We just said before, you have to be a Yid for that.
That's right. Okay, so that is a tremendous question. So the thing is like this. The American experiment, right from the beginning, was to counter the European mentality. So therefore, there was something of reflecting of the self. This is our belief. This is what we stand for. It is true, it happened to be a true stance, but to say that it was done in order to accommodate the Mebashin in the world, that is too much. There was a recognition that there is a better way to live in the world. And that, in fact, is what the blessing of the American experiment is.
One of the great achievements is the "In God We Trust" printed on the banknotes.
That's right. That's right. This is why the Rebbe gave dollars. The principal gift was $1. What's why $1? Because in dollar it says "In God we trust." It's no question that the American experience was a big breakthrough relative to what preceded it, what the world stood for. Big breakthrough. Yet, there's still which makes reflects the greatness of the human being. AYIN goes a step further. AYIN is his mitzvahs. Think about it. The plant film. What does film have to do with the worldly experience? Nothing. And this is a principle mitzvah. What are you doing if you encounter somebody, you put on film? Oh, sure, I put on film. What's film? It is immediately connecting him to something outwardly.
And not just that, but the true command or desire of the maker of the world. There are plenty lahavdil nations that'll do stuff that's sort of otherworldly, ceremonial, cultural, but forget all that. We're saying it's a true opportunity to serve God, and it's nothing within a worldly context.
Look, you stop somebody in the middle of Times Square, and you have him remove his left sleeve, and you put on tefillin on him, and he fold it up, and he goes goodbye. What happened? What does he carry with him in him? There's no takeaway. It's an interesting thing you should know, that the idea of putting on tefillin in the middle of Times Square, when I have experience putting on tefillin in the middle of a train station, a bus station in a very busy area, and he had no problem at all. This is really an American phenomenon, because I understand that in Europe this doesn't work so well. America has brought the recognition of the truth of the world, of the creation aspect of the world, right down to the world level.
That's interesting. You're bringing out that that this is like an American Indian, that tefillin in the bus station it's not just a Chabad mivtza. You're actually saying it's part of the American mindset that godliness can be right here, right now.
No, it's a Chabad mivtza, but who would acquiesce to do that?
You're saying American Yidden and Americans in general are more on that level.
That's right.
Interesting. Yeah, we've spoken about this before, right? We talked about Europeans being more sophisticated, and they have all their mental furniture, and so when you come with Getlichkeit, it's not so simple to talk straightforwardly.
Right.
But the Americans, right? The Rebbe said the American mindset is very, very appropriate for Hasidus.
That's right. That's Friedrich never said that. Mm-hmm.
And I think I heard it said, you cannot tell them to do anything, but you can talk to them and teach them about everything.
Yeah, I don't know whether that refers to.
Something like, okay.
Right.
I'll tell you, I could say I reached it to Europe because I came from Europe to America. When I saw the simplicity with which the American person accepts principle, I was taken aback.
Meaning what? Meaning straightforward, simple acceptance of.
A principle. Nothing personal, nothing sophisticated. Just this is the principle, this is what it is. Let me say this. To European mind, the way the American tax system works is out of context. You mean you trust the guy to make out his tax return? That's it. I'll tell you what struck me when I first came to this country, what struck me directly. There's a subway here and the subway in Paris. The subway is very sophisticated, beautiful, and so forth. In Paris, every entrance to the subway was manned by human being. There was no such thing as turnstile. You put a token and you go in. No such thing. First time I saw this is in America. And I was watching people, it was in those days, jump the turnstile was nothing. You can go underneath the jumper. It was nothing. There's no challenge at all. In the first years, I never observed anything like this. People would go and put in a token and go through. Nobody thought of any other way. This was not to be imagined on the European scale, scene. I was very impressed. American is really recognizes the respect for the country, respect for the law, and there was no question about it. All right.
I have a quick, small technical question. Today we had problems listening to you. There was some interference. It was chopped. I want to know if you're using the same phone as you use every day.
Yes. I only have one phone.
Okay. Right, so it's probably internet connection.
Okay, very likely.
All right. Thank you.
All right, so have a great day. We should all have a great day, Mitzvah Hashem.
Amen.
Man, a good day.
Hi. Called.
All to Batzlacha.
Oh, man.